Welcome to Perpetuator, where we're revolutionizing the way you interact with documents. Gone are the days of tirelessly searching through pages of text. With our cutting-edge technology, you can upload documents and ask questions in natural language, getting the answers you need fast. At Perpetuator, we understand that efficiency is key. Whether you're building a business looking to streamline operations, or an individual seeking quick and accurate information, our B2C platform is user-friendly, allowing you to effortlessly upload documents and get answers in real time. But that's not all. We also offer powerful APIs for B2B usage, enabling seamless integration and document interaction for enterprises. And for those who require a more tailored solution, our system can actually be deployed on AWS cloud infrastructure, ensuring scalability and security by isolating your documents to your own cloud. Why do we do it? We're driven by a vision of a more productive and efficient world. We believe that by enhancing our document interaction experience, we can save you time and help you make more informed decisions. Curious to see it in action? Visit Perpetuator.com and discover a world of efficiency at your fingertips. Perpetuator, empowering you through innovation.
Today we're going to check out Perpetuator command line interface tool. This tool talks to a lot of back-end APIs in order to load documents and ask questions in natural language. Here you can see that we're cloning this repo from GitHub. We don't have Python set up. We're running on a Windows environment here. So we're going to go get this tool. It's called PyEnv-win. It's on GitHub. You can see it here in the URL. You download this tool and it lets you switch your Python versions. If you just install Python directly, you're not going to be able to switch between versions for different projects. And that can be a real pain. You kind of mess up your development environment. So here's the installation instructions on their README, and we're just going to follow their directions. So we'll copy that first command, which installs PyEnv, and then we'll run this. Now this is in PowerShell, so make sure you're opening a PowerShell, not a normal command line tool, not a normal prompt. And then also make sure here that you're not running in the administrative mode. You don't need to. You can, but that might install it in a little bit of a different way. So this is just under my user, Windows 11, and then we're installing here using this command. It takes a little while. And then inside of this project, you also notice that there is a .python-version. And what that does is when you cd into this directory, it should also set it so that that Python tool that is in that .python version file is the one that you're using when you go into that directory for your project. And then we're also going to use Poetry. And we'll configure all of these tools so that you can run the command line tool. So you could look around here more on the README. They talk about a couple of different pieces of information. And here it's completed. So at this point now, we can actually start to use the PyEnv tool. Sometimes you need to reset your shell. So here I started a new shell. Go ahead and do that. Like kill that PowerShell and then open it up again. And then let's go ahead and run here the PyEnv commands that we're going to use to both install these tools and set up our environment. So we're in a Perpetuator directory right now for our CLI tool. And if you run PyEnv, it shows you help and a list of commands you can run. We're just going to install Python version 3.10.0. Now, this is installing it for the system. This isn't doing anything specifically for this project yet. It's just making sure that you download it off of the internet, and then it sets it up in this area where it puts all the different versions of Python. So now that we've done an install, you can also set this up so that you can configure your environment so that it will use this version. Here I'm trying to just cd into it to see if it sets up my Python version correctly. And look at that, it sure did. So just by cding into that, changing into that directory, I'm now getting Python 3.10.0 set up. And if I run Python, that's the Python version I'm going to get. So this is much better than trying to handle a whole bunch of different Python versions yourself. Now we're in this directory, and you can see there's that .python-version file. And that's the one that has the version specified in it. That's how PyEnv knew to switch to Python version 3.10.0. So now that we have our Python version set up in our tool, we're going to go ahead and try to open this project up in VS Code. Now it looks like I don't have it set up on my command line, so I'm just going to open it manually. But yeah, I should add that to your path. I probably should do that too. If you need help with that, just let me know. Alright, so here I opened up the project, which is the Perpetuator-CLI. On the left, you can see that there's that extra file, install pyenv.win.ps1. That was downloaded when we installed pyenv, and you can just delete that. We don't need to check that in. But here, after I opened this project, notice that my Python environment's not set up, even though it was in the shell just from CDing into that. So we're going to have to make a change here to get Python set up in our IDE. Again, this is VS Code that we're using, and this is a very simple tool. I use PyCharm, and if you ever want help setting up PyCharm, just go ahead and hit me up. So pyenv local will try to adjust the Python version in that Python version file. However, we don't actually have that all. We don't really need to change that. What we're trying to do here is just get it to set up our environment. So what I ended up doing is I closed the project and exited it, and then I killed all of my VS codes and restarted it. And then now look at it, it is working. Just by opening this project, it puts me into this directory and sets up my Python environment. So I don't have to do anything. I just had to kill all of my VS codes and restart them, so that they got that new pyenv environment. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and make some modifications to the README file, just so we can capture some of the things that we're doing here that are a little bit different for the pyenv setup. Now, so one of the things that was missing from the README is the pyenv install. So I think we'll go ahead and add that. Now when you do a pyenv shell, this drops you into a shell in any directory using a specific Python version. So here I'm playing with that, making sure that I can now tell Poetry I want it to use Python 3.10. And as you can see here, that was not working until we ran another command. So that's what we're going to do here, is we have to set up our tools so that all of the environment is set up correctly. And here we're just going to add a mention that if this is your first time using Poetry, then you need to install the host pyenv, so that way you have that version of Python available in your global installations, and then you just switch to it here. While you're working on this specific project, you'll switch to Python 3.10.0, and we'll depend on that CDing into the directory to do that for us, so it's kind of automatic and we don't have to think about it. It also lets us change the version for these projects in the future, and then everybody who downloads that project should get that. It will complain that you don't have that version of Python. You'll have to install it. So we're going to have that note here. And then we also tell Poetry that this is the version of Python that we want to use. So we're just updating the README a little bit. There we go. Now that's what we run. That tells Poetry what version of Python this project uses. And now if we drop into what's called Poetry Shell, this sets up our dependencies, our Python version, all the stuff for us once we've CD'd into this directory and set that up. The CDing is really what sets up the Python version. Poetry Shell just sets up our dependencies. So at this point now we've got the right Python version. We're loading our tools, all of our dependencies, and if we run a Poetry build, this is going to set up our Perpetuator CLI package that can be installed, and then we also have to set up the dependencies. So here we're installing the dependencies, as well as this is going to set up our project so that we have access to this perk command line tool, which is for Perpetuator CLI. And here we run it, and you see it is actually working. So our command line is now set up. This is the source code we're going to modify in this project, and we can run it with perk. That's our command line tool. But however, you'll notice it's complaining now that we don't have a .env file set up. So let's go ahead and set that up. We're just going to copy the sample.env file to the .env file. And this sample.env doesn't have any of our information in it. These values that we're going to put in this file aren't actually private, but they are needed to set up the project. They identify Perpetuator on Amazon, and they also identify our Cognito setup so that we can find all of the users for this specific setup. And we can have different servers or Cognito setups for production and for our staging and for any enterprise customers that want us to set up a separate account just for them that they can own. They can have their own Cognito and own set of users set up. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to copy that env file over. Let's go ahead and set up that file. So now it's not complaining about the .env file, it found it, but if we actually try to do something, it's going to have a problem because it doesn't have the right credentials. So here we get the user, and this user is your user information, your email and your username that you're going to log in with. So to set that up, you have to visit this URL that does the authentication. But you'll notice that the client ID is all ones. That's wrong. And so is the URL. But once you log in, then that website will actually pass back your credentials to this command line interface tool, and then it'll save it to your disk in this thing called tokens.json file. So here on the .env, you can see these kind of fake values. So now we're just going to put in the real values. So let me go ahead and get these. These have been posted in Slack, our Slack, but you can just type them in manually. I can put them into this video's text area so that you can just copy and paste it in. This works for now, but as we progress and we actually start to support commercial users who want API keys, they will have to specify an API key in here that will track their usage. So just be aware some of this might, it will certainly be changing in the future. All right. Well, this README might be a good thing for us to upload. Let's see if this is working now with all the new configurations. So let's get our user here. And then what we'll need to do is go to that URL so that we can log in. You'll see that it's got all the right numbers now, and the callback URL is my local host. So that's where it'll send the information once it's authenticated. And you see that it says that the app's listening. So it actually sets up a server on your local host, and that's how it receives the information from here. So here you just log in with whatever username and password you want, or you can click sign up, and then you just enter your username and password that you want, and your email, and then it will set up an account for you. And once you've set all of that up, then you can log into the system. So either way, on that page, you're either going to set up an account or you're going to sign in,
And once you do that, this command will return with the information of the account you just created. And now if you do it again, you're already authenticated, so it'll just return this information over and over. So it's a way to check what account are you currently using. If you work with multiple accounts, it's going to be a very nice way to check which one's currently authenticating. And now we can start using some of the sub-commands outside of get user. So let's get our uploads for this account. I don't think I have any. Nope. So this one's empty. So we just made some modifications to this README, right? It's not even uploaded to the server yet, but hey, let's play with it. So let's see if we can get it to tell us the install process that we just did, right? So we're actually going to use the tool now, which is the source you have here in front of you, and it's going to call into the back-end APIs and load the document and then ask questions about it. So one of the first steps that we're going to do is just to upload this README. This is the so we call put uploads and file. So this is the file that we want to upload into the uploads area. And so that uploads there, and this is using S3 with a pre-signed URL, and it uploads, and you can upload pretty much any size file, but we'll have to set some limits on that soon. So now we can get our uploads that are done, and you can see it's still indexing, so you have to wait. It's not going to have any of the information in the vector database until that's complete. I mean, I guess it could have partial, but we just need to wait until it's done indexing. And there we go. Now it's ready. So now let's go ahead and ask a question about this document. So the way that we can do this is we just do a post index, and post index help here shows us what we have to do. So we have to pass in a collection and a query. Now, a collection is where all these documents go. When you upload a document, they all get indexed into the default collection. So all of your documents will be in there. We could change this architecture if we decide that this is wasteful, but it's kind of nice to just have something you can ask about all your documents, and then the question that you want to ask. Now you can also index specific documents into specific collections. So you can take all of your investing documents and put that into an investment collection. And then when you ask questions, it'll only be specific to those investing documents. But here we're just going to use the default because it was already indexed to that, so we don't have to run any additional commands. And now we can say, how should I set up my poetry environment? And because it's working off of this README, and that's really all it has, it can tell us how to set up our poetry environment. So first command you need to run is pyenv shell 3.10.0. If you are using poetry for the first time, install it with the current version with the command pip install poetry. Then inform poetry what version of Python is expected for this project using the command poetry env 3.10.0. Install dependencies and install perk so that it is linked to the source in this repo. Use the following command: poetry build and poetry install. That's exactly what we did. And look at that, it just summarized this entire video into like one line of code here, or one response, I mean. So we'll add the README again. You don't need that install pyenv ps1 file here. That's just what set up our pyenv stuff. So if you want to keep that somewhere, you're welcome to, but you don't need it in here. And so I'm going to commit this. We updated the docs, and we just added some more info about how to set up the environment. And from this point on, you should be able to use this tool. So let me know if you have any questions, or if you need help. Feel free to reach out or post in the comments. Thanks for watching.